The sound of keyboards and ringing phones filled the open-plan office of Halston and Gray Consulting, a firm known for its sharp suits, big contracts, and bigger egos. The kind of place where power wasn't just spoken, it was performed. At her small corner desk, Alicia Monroe scrolled through the final presentation slides for the Carter Tech proposal, the biggest pitch the firm had this quarter. She'd led the research, designed the strategy, and rewritten the plan twice after her boss tweaked her ideas. But now, with the meeting minutes away, she wasn't thinking about credit. She was thinking about possibility. Because today was also the day she'd find out if she was getting the promotion she'd been promised. She straightened her blazer and glanced at the photo on her desk. Her mother, smiling in front of the family's old house, holding a sign that said, "Don't wait for the door to open. Build one." It was advice Alicia had carried her whole life. Her boss, Greg Thompson, appeared beside her cubicle. Mid-40s, expensive haircut, easy smile, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. "You ready for the meeting, Alicia?" he asked. She nodded. "Everything's finalized. I sent the deck to the client and updated the numbers." "Good," he said, glancing at her computer. "Remember, let me lead the presentation. You just jump in if I need details." Alicia hesitated. Of course. She'd written every line of that presentation. The meeting went perfectly. The client was impressed. Innovative, sharp, fresh, they'd said. Greg smiled broadly and took the compliments like a man used to them. Alicia watched silently, her polite smile hiding the burn behind her ribs. After the meeting, back in the office, Greg called her into his glass-walled office. She took a breath before entering, smoothing her skirt, hope flickering in her chest. "Alicia," he began, "I wanted to thank you for your hard work on Carter Tech. You really pulled through." "Thank you, sir," she said, sitting up straighter. "I'm glad the client was happy." He nodded. They were. Which brings me to something I wanted to discuss. The promotion. Her pulse quickened. Finally. Greg leaned back in his chair, clasping his hands together in that managerial way he'd practiced. "You've done great work here, no question. But after reviewing everything with the partners, we've decided to go in a different direction for the senior consultant role." Alicia's face stayed still. Only her eyes blinked. "May I ask why?" Greg sighed as if this were difficult for him. "You're talented, Alicia, but the partners feel you're still developing in certain leadership areas. You're detail-oriented, but maybe not quite assertive enough yet. We need someone who can really take charge in front of clients." She stared at him. "I led the Carter Tech proposal." "Yes, but," he smiled awkwardly, "in a support capacity. And you'll get your turn, I promise. You just need a little more polish." Polish. The word hit like an insult dressed as advice. "Who got the position?" she asked quietly. Greg cleared his throat. "Jake." Her heart sank. Jake, the analyst she'd trained 6 months ago. Nice enough, inexperienced, but loud in meetings. "Jake?" she repeated. "He's a natural leader," Greg said. "Clients respond to him." Alicia forced a small nod. "I see." He smiled, relieved she wasn't arguing. "I knew you'd understand. And hey, this isn't a no, it's just a not yet. Keep doing what you're doing and your time will come." She stood, her voice calm. "Thank you for the feedback." Greg nodded approvingly. "That's the right attitude." She walked out of his office, eyes straight ahead, every word burning into her memory. Not yet. Not assertive enough. Keep doing what you're doing. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just sat down at her desk, opened a blank document, and started updating her resume. Because Alicia Monroe knew something Greg Thompson didn't. Her time wasn't coming. It was already on its way. 6 months later, the name Alicia Monroe had vanished from the Halston and Gray staff directory. But in the sleek corner office of a rival firm, Sterling and Combs Consulting, her name was printed on the frosted glass door, Senior Strategy Lead. The air in her new office smelled like cedar and fresh paper. On her desk sat a brass nameplate, a gift from her new boss, Elena Cruz, who had hired her after one interview and a single look at her portfolio. "You've been doing a director's work," Elena had said bluntly. "You just haven't been given the title yet. Let's fix that." And she had. Under Alicia's leadership, Sterling and Comer landed 2 major accounts that Halston and Gray had been chasing for months. Clients loved her, not because she was loud, but because she listened, because she asked smart questions, because she made every person in the room feel seen. Her old boss, Greg, meanwhile, was fighting fires. The Carter Tech account, once his proudest win, had been slipping. Jake, the natural leader he'd promoted instead of Alicia, had fumbled deadlines, missed client expectations, and struggled to keep the team organized. In a quiet way, the gap between Alicia's not yet and her now grew wider with every passing week. One rainy evening, as Alicia packed up her laptop, Elena stepped into her office. "Got a minute?" she asked. "Of course," Alicia said. Elena smiled. "There's talk of expansion, a new department we're building around innovation strategy. I want you to lead it." Alicia blinked. "Lead it?" Elena nodded. "Director-level position, reporting directly to me. You've earned it." Alicia sat back in her chair, her heart steady but full. For a moment, she thought of Greg's words. "You're not assertive enough." She smiled faintly. "I'd be honored," she said. Elena grinned. "Good. Because I want you at the Leadership Summit next quarter, the one where all the regional firms gather." Alicia's eyebrows lifted. "Including Halston and Gray?" Elena's smile turned sly. "Especially Halston and Gray." 3 months later, Alicia stepped into the ballroom of the Midwest Business Leadership Summit. The place gleamed, chandeliers, tailored suits, polished laughter, banners lined the walls, building the future of corporate strategy. At one of the tables near the stage sat Greg Thompson. His hair was a little grayer, his smile tighter. He was mid-conversation when he looked up and froze. Alicia walked in wearing a charcoal gray suit, confident and poised. No hesitation, no pretense. Just quiet authority. He blinked, trying to process. "Alicia?" She turned at the sound of his voice. "Greg," she said politely. "Good to see you." He stood, still stunned. "You're with Sterling now?" "Director of Innovation Strategy," she said evenly. "I was just promoted last month." Greg's jaw twitched. "Director?" "Yes," she said, smiling faintly. "You were right, though. I needed more polish. Turns out I found it." He forced a laugh. "Good for you, really. That's impressive." She nodded. "Thank you. I learned a lot from Halston and Gray." He smiled, half relieved, half uneasy. "Glad we could help you get where you are." Her gaze met his, steady and unflinching. "You did, just not in the way you think." Before he could respond, the announcer called the next speaker. "Please welcome from Sterling & Co., Director of Innovation Strategy, Ms. Alicia Monroe." Greg froze. Alicia gave him a polite nod, then walked confidently toward the stage, the sound of applause filling the room as the spotlight found her. She took the podium, her voice clear, poised, commanding. "Good morning. My name is Alicia Monroe, and today I want to talk about something that every company needs to understand. Growth doesn't come from saying, 'not yet,' to the people who are ready. It comes from recognizing them before someone else does." The crowd murmured in approval. Greg lowered his gaze to the table, his hands tightening around his glass. Alicia smiled. "When we underestimate talent, we don't just lose good employees. We lose the future." Her words landed like truth. Calm, sharp, undeniable. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. Elena stood near the back of the room, grinning like a proud mentor. Greg clapped too, but his face was tight, regret heavy in his eyes. As Alicia stepped off the stage, she didn't look back. Because she didn't need validation. She had built something stronger, respect. And this time, no one could take it away. A year later, Halston and Gray Consulting was in trouble. What had once been one of Chicago's sharpest firms was now quietly slipping, losing clients, struggling with morale, and haunted by whispers that its leadership was out of touch. Projects were late, innovation stagnant, and several high-profile accounts had defected to their biggest competitor, Sterling and Comberg Consulting. In her corner office overlooking Lake Michigan, Alicia Monroe watched the numbers come in on her tablet. Profit margins, growth trends, client retention. She didn't need to gloat. The data spoke for itself. Sterling was thriving. Her division was now responsible for a quarter of the company's new business. Elena Cruz, her mentor and CEO, stepped into her office holding a folder. "You're going to want to see this," she said, smiling faintly. Alicia looked up. "What's that?" Elena handed it to her. "A merger proposal. Halston and Gray reached out. They're asking for a strategic partnership, possibly a buyout." For a moment, Alicia just stared at the logo printed across the page, the same one she used to see every morning on Greg Thompson's office door. Elena grinned. "They're bleeding talent. Their partners want out before it gets worse. It's a good deal for us. But if we move forward, I want you leading the integration." Alicia blinked. "Me? Of course. You know their structure better than anyone," Elena said. Then her voice softened. "And I think it's poetic, don't you?" Alicia smiled slowly. "Very." 3 months later, the merger was official. Sterling and Kosher had acquired Halston and Gray, restructuring the management hierarchy and bringing in new leadership. Employees shuffled nervously through meetings, waiting to see who would stay and who would go. In the main conference room, the same one where Alicia had once been told she wasn't assertive enough, the entire leadership team sat around the long table. Greg Thompson was among them, stiff and silent, hands folded tightly in front of him. The door opened. Alicia walked in, calm and confident, dressed in a crisp white suit. Conversation stopped. Every head turned. She set her folder on the table and smiled faintly. "Good morning, everyone." Greg's jaw tightened. "Alicia." "Mr. Thompson," she replied evenly. "It's good to see you again." He forced a strained smile. "So, Sterling's sending you to manage the transition?" "Not exactly," she said, opening her folder. "As of today, I've been appointed Director of Strategic Operations for both firms. I'll be overseeing all integration and leadership restructuring." The words hit the room like a quiet thunderclap. Greg blinked. "You'll be overseeing?" "Yes," Alicia said smoothly. "In simple terms, your department now reports directly to me." The silence that followed was heavy and complete. Greg's face flushed, but Alicia's tone remained calm, professional, not vengeful. "Let's be clear. This isn't personal. We're here to rebuild a company. But I will be enforcing a culture of fairness, accountability, and respect. Starting now." She glanced around the room, meeting every gaze with quiet authority. "Some of you might find this uncomfortable. Change always is. But the only way forward is through it." Her eyes returned to Greg. "And as for leadership qualities, I believe we can all continue developing those." The room stayed still. Greg nodded slowly, the weight of irony settling on him like gravity. "Understood," he said, his voice low. Alicia smiled faintly. "Good. Then, let's get to work." After the meeting, she lingered by the window, watching rain streak across the glass. The skyline shimmered beneath gray clouds. The same city, but somehow different now. Carla, now Sterling's office coordinator, transferred during the merger, approached with a fresh cup of coffee. "Thought you might need this," she said. Alicia smiled. "You read my mind." Carla hesitated. "Must feel strange, huh? Being back here." Alicia looked around the familiar office. "It does, but not in a bad way." Carla smiled. "You've come a long way." Alicia nodded. "We both have." Later that evening, after everyone had gone, Alicia stood alone in the hallway outside Greg's old office, now hers. The plaque still bore his name. She traced her finger over the engraved letters for a moment, then quietly removed it, setting it aside. From her bag, she took out a small brass nameplate, the same one Elena had given her months ago when she'd joined Sterling. She placed it on the door. Alicia Monroe, Director of Strategic Operations. The reflection of her name shimmered softly under the fluorescent light. She took a breath, her shoulders steady, her eyes clear. No anger, no gloating, just peace. The kind that comes from knowing the universe has a way of setting things right, in its own time. She turned off the light and walked down the hallway, her heels echoing softly against the marble. The same building that once denied her a door now had her name on it.